Okay, so next we're ready to move on to the spreadsheet part of the task. Now, before we actually start to use a spreadsheet, I thought it would be an idea that we have a look at the spreadsheet PowerPoint from year 10. I know some of you haven't actively used spreadsheets since GCSE. You would have done your spreadsheet in year 10, okay, because spreadsheets weren't on the year 11 GCSE syllabus. So it's been a couple of years for some of you, and I know a few of you didn't take GCSE ICT, so for you guys, the last time you would have actively used spreadsheets in an ICT lesson would have been in year 9. So we'll just have a quick recap of spreadsheets, just to remind ourselves of key vocabulary and some of the main features and functionalities of a spreadsheet. I'm going to show you the PowerPoint that we use in year 10 for GCSE. Okay, it's this one here. I've put it on Moodle for you. If you go to the AICT coursework course, okay, and I've created a new topic here ready for the spreadsheet task, and just for now I've put this spreadsheet here so you can download it and have a look at it if you wish. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint. Okay, spreadsheets. Now the correct term is spreadsheet. We say Microsoft Excel. Excel is of course the Microsoft brand of spreadsheets, but the type of software that we're using is a spreadsheet. Just like the database was Microsoft Access, word processing software is Microsoft Word, presentation software Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay, but the correct term is spreadsheet, and the brand of software we're using is the Microsoft Office suite, and this is Excel. So when we look at a spreadsheet, okay, we see basically this grid system. Okay, now remember that a row goes down, and a column goes down and a row goes across. Okay, now the columns are have the letters A, B, C, D, and so on, and the rows which go across have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, these are all called cells. Okay, and each cell has a unique cell reference. So this one here, for example, would be B2 because it's in column B and it's on row 2. So these are all cells, and this one here is the active cell. Okay. Components of a spreadsheet. Okay. Labels. Labels are used for titles, headings, names, and for identifying rows of columns of data. Okay, so if we just type a word into the spreadsheet, for example, pay, that would be a label. Data is the value. It can be text or it can be numbers that you enter into a cell on a spreadsheet. So for example, data, if somebody earns £7.25 an hour, that would be data. And formulas are used to perform calculations on the cell content. So we can use a formula to multiply how many hours somebody has worked by how much they earn per hour, and that will give us a calculation of how much they've earned. A function is a specialised type of calculation that the spreadsheet software has memorised. So for example, an average, if you want to get an average, instead of adding everything together and dividing it by the amount that there are, we can use the formula equals average, put the cell reference in, and it will do it for us. One that you'll all be familiar with, particularly if you did, or you should be familiar with if you did GCSE, will be the equals sum. So in this case here, we're saying equals to the sum of the cell range, in this case E3 to P3. So this formula will add all the contents between E3 and P3 together to give us the total. Okay. Now, when it comes to cell references, there are two main types of cell referencing, and it's important that we understand which they are and when to use them. First of all, we've got relative cell referencing. Okay, with relative cell referencing, we reference a cell, and as the text says, with this reference tells us the spreadsheet, the cell to which it refers is 3 cells up, so 1, 2, 3, and 1 to the left. Okay, so in this example, when we copy this formula, okay, and we move it over here, although we've moved the formula, the cells to which it references remains in the same pattern. So although we've moved it from B4 over to E5, we still have 1, 2, 3 up and 1 to the left. Okay, that's relative referencing. If we have a look at absolute referencing, the difference is that although we move the cell, so in this case here we would move B4 over to D5, the cell that we reference stays in the same place. Okay, so you've got absolute cell referencing and relative cell referencing, and it's important that you know the difference between them and when to use them. Okay, so the benefits of using a spreadsheet, and you'll see this in a minute because I'm going to do a couple of examples with a spreadsheet. First of all, you can perform a what-if investigation. Okay, so you can make changes to a spreadsheet values to see what happens. So, for example, we could have an employee who earns £5 an hour, okay, or £7 an hour, and we could change their hourly pay from £7 an hour to £7.50 an hour, and we can see the increase in how much they earn, and from a business perspective, how much it would cost the business to give that employee that pay rise. We've also got automatic recalculation. So in the example I've just given you, if we were to change the employee's pay from £7 per hour to £7.50, providing the formulas have been written correctly, it will automatically recalculate how much money that person has earned. Okay. Accurate calculation, this is an important one. Again, providing the formulas have been correctly written, the calculations on the numbers will always be correct. So when developing spreadsheets, it's a good idea to take your time, make sure that you write a formula, you test that the formula works, and once you're happy, you can copy and paste it and reuse it, and you know that the calculations will always be accurate. And finally, if you think back to your GCSE, it's very easy to produce graphs and charts. So once you've got the data, okay, you can select certain amounts of data and you can produce lots of different graphs from that data. Right, modelling, we're moving a bit further through the PowerPoint now, and this is, it's still relevant, but in terms of what we want to get out of this today, we're going to actually have a look in the spreadsheet now and talk a little bit more about the spreadsheet. Now, I'm using Microsoft Office Excel 2013, okay, you might have access to Excel 2010 or 2007 as we have in school. The interface is ever so slightly different between the versions, but the majority of it is the same, and you'll be able to find your way around with the tabs here at the top. Okay, so looking at the spreadsheet, we have all these grids, the cells. Okay, remember we've got our columns which go down, okay, we've got our rows which go across, and we've got cells. Okay, so if I click on that cell, that now becomes the active cell, and the cell reference for this one is E8, K5, B17, R16, AB19. Now, just to practically demonstrate the relative cell referencing, the absolute cell referencing, and some of the features we've just talked about, the benefits of using a spreadsheet, I'm very, very quickly going to develop just a very, very basic spreadsheet model for just for demonstration purpose. So I'm going to pause the screencast while I do that, because you don't need to watch me actually create it, not at this stage. Okay, very quickly, we're just going to start with these labels. These are labels where I've entered text, and I'm going to calculate employees' hours worked, the pay, the tax, their gross pay, which is how much money they earn before they pay tax, and their net pay, which is how much money we earn after we've paid tax. I will quickly show you just developing these formulas just so you've got a brief overview. So let's start with an employee. We'll put me in there. Hourly pay, let's say I earn £8.50 per hour and I work 40 hours. Okay. Now the tax, we need to calculate the tax that I'm going to pay. But before we do, I've just noticed I've missed out total pay. Now the nice thing about the spreadsheet is I can highlight these three cells, just pick them up, look how my cursor changes, let's just nudge them over one. So now in here, I can add my pay, just call it pay. Okay, so I'm going to use a formula, and I want to multiply 8.5 by 40. Okay, so that's how much money I will have earned for that working week. But I'm not really multiplying 8.5 by 40. I'm doing C5 by D5. Okay, so very quickly, equal sum, open brackets, C5. Note how the text for the formula here has gone, C5 has gone blue, and it matches up with the blue border on cell C5, multiplied by D5. Close the bracket, and that gives me £340 pay before tax. I now need to calculate how much tax I'm going to pay. Let's just say tax is 20%, so equals sum, open brackets. So E5, notice this time instead of typing the cell reference, I clicked on the cell. E5 multiplied by 20%, we need to express that as a decimal. in a formula, so 0.20. Okay, and I'll close that bracket. Okay, so I've got to pay £68. Okay, now my gross pay. Okay, well that's the pay there really, so I'm going to drop that one. Okay, and I'm going to work out the net pay, which is how much I've earned after tax. Okay, so equal sum, nice simple one, and it's my pay minus my tax, which gives me £272 that I've actually got in my pocket. Now you notice in the tax formula I've used 20%. Okay, at the moment, let's pretend tax is 20%. I mean, a good real example of this would be VAT. For a long time, VAT, value added tax, which is a tax we pay on most goods and services, few exceptions like children's clothes, etc. But the majority of goods we purchase, we pay VAT on. And for many, many years, it was 17.5%. Last year, the year before, it changed to 20%. Okay. Now the problem with putting 20% in here is if VAT changes or tax changes, we've got to go through and alter it. It would be a lot easier to put one value in one of these cells and reference that one. Okay, so we can change the tax rate in one cell and then it's reflected through the rest of the spreadsheet. Okay, so to do that very quickly, I'm going to put a little label here. We'll call it tax, and I'm going to type 20% there. In my tax formula, I'm going to get rid of 0.20 and I'm going to reference this cell here. So it's E1. So if I change that to E1, okay, I'm now doing times 20%. So when I press enter, the value shouldn't change. No, it's still 68, but we've just referenced this cell here. Okay. Okay, to give this a bit more context, I'm going to develop this a little bit further. Okay, just to show you the difference between absolute and relative cell referencing. Okay, so I'll just copy those down. And straight away you can see some errors which have occurred. Okay, let's have a look why. Okay, I don't need to change my name, I don't need to change the hourly pay and the hours worked. This is purely to illustrate the relative cell referencing which we're using at the moment. Okay, so in this formula here, okay, we can see that cell E5 is referencing cell E1. Okay, that's fine. Now if I click into the next cell down, okay, we can see that because I've copied it and pasted it, it's moved this reference here, it's brought it down one. Okay, and again, it's brought it down again, and now we've got value here because we're trying to do 340 multiplied by pay and the spreadsheet just doesn't understand it, so it's given us a value error. Okay, so at the moment we're using relative cell referencing where the gap, the pattern between the cell references maintained. So as soon as we copy and paste it, we start to lose this 20%. Okay, that's no good. What we need to do is we need to change this and we need to make it absolute cell referencing. So watch this. Okay, all I'm going to do is go back into my formula, wrong cell, it's this one here. Okay, and to make it an absolute cell reference, I'm going to add a $sign, so shift and the 4 key, in front of the E and the $sign again in front of the 1. That's now made it a relative cell reference. So watch what happens now. When I copy and paste, okay, it calculates all of them. Now the data is the same because we haven't changed any data. Let's do it quickly just to show that it works. We won't worry about the name, but we'll say hourly pay, $9.99. Okay, and you can see this is automatically updating and recalculating. Okay, I'm going to change the hours worked to 50. Okay, and you can see how the data value is changing. Let's very quickly go back to these benefits of spreadsheets. Okay, so you can perform what-if investigations, automatic recalculation, well I've just shown you that one, accurate calculation, you saw me write the formula once, check that it works, and then I copied and pasted it, and the what-if investigation. So we can say, for example, Ben, this employee here, earns £8.50 an hour. Okay, he works an average of 40 hours a week, earning £340. What if we were to give him a £1 an hour pay rise? Lucky Ben. And we can see now that the pay has gone up. So we can see it's going to cost an extra £40 to give Ben that pay rise. So that's what if. That's a very, very basic example, but what if? What if we give Ben a pay cut? Oh no. So let's pay Ben £6.50. Okay, and all of a sudden we can see how much the pay has gone down to and how much we as a business could save by giving that pay cut. Okay, so overall that's just a quick overview of spreadsheets. It's what you need to know in order to progress with the rest of the task. Don't forget you can download this from Moodle.